Hello everybody, welcome to Introduction to Tableau, brought to you by the Brock Digital Scholarship Lab. So just have a little brief outline of what we'll be doing today. First I'll just introduce what Tableau is, talk a little bit about it. Then we'll go over importing and preparing data in Tableau and analyzing and visualizing it. And then at the end we'll use the skills that we learned earlier to tell a story with the data in Tableau. This is pretty brief. It's not a summary of everything we'll be doing. There'll be a little bit more, but just to give you an overview. So first I want to talk about what data visualization actually is. So data visualization is just representing information visually. It's exactly what it sounds like. Data visualization is so useful, incredibly useful, especially when you want to communicate a message to somebody, because it makes information far more accessible, and that makes the amount of time that someone needs to recognize a pattern far less. So as you can see from the set of numbers above to the set of numbers below, the pattern becomes instantly recognizable with just a very small change in the way we're representing the information. And an even smaller change can make the information even more accessible, and I bet you guys didn't even see the 7. So now we're going to talk about what Tableau can do. So Tableau has a number of features. These are all pulled from the website itself. So this is how they sell their own software. You can work with big data in Tableau. You can build business dashboards. You can work with maps. You can do things like time series analysis and survey analysis, and it's collaborative, which is all really useful. And they're all really important parts of a good data visualization tool. So Tableau recognizes that a lot of times we're building data visualizations or dashboards that are just one component of a larger business process or workflow. And so they have a lot of software that they integrate with. They have this list. I just thought it was kind of funny because it's like light gray on gray. It's not very accessible to the eye for a data visualization website. But yeah, here's the whole list. So they have Alteryx, R, a whole bunch of stuff. MapR, IBM, Splunk, Teradata, Excel, a whole lot of very popular tools. So there's plenty of reasons why you might want to use Tableau. But I think the most important is that it makes data easily accessible, and it's easy to turn data into effective visuals. But you can also do things like build Tableau into existing workflows, as you saw from the earlier integration slide. You can easily install it on any computer. It's very light. It's easy to use at any skill level. You don't need a lot of experience with it to make really cool visualizations, as you'll see today. And there has a lot of data that can be worked with. So unless you have access to Tableau Desktop, the version we'll be using today is Tableau Public. Tableau Public is the free version of Tableau. It's basically the same thing. There are a couple small restrictions though, just as you'll see on the next slide. If you want to download it, it's free. You just make an account and you can access it at the link below. There'll also be a link in the description of the video. Tableau Desktop and Tableau Public are very similar. In terms of functionality, there's basically the same thing. There's a cost difference, of course, because Tableau Public is free and Tableau Desktop is far more. And the storage capacity is a little different. You can only go up to 1 million rows of data in Tableau Public and then unlimited in Tableau Desktop. And also the way that information is saved is different. So in Tableau Public, you have to publish all of your visualizations to the gallery to save them, which is public and open. So you won't want to be working with proprietary data in Tableau Public, but with Tableau Desktop, you can save it to your actual computer, which is good. All right, now that we're done introducing Tableau, we're going to get started. So we'll be learning to use Tableau today through this story, the story of Monica's bike store, and all of the data will be from this fictional story. So Monica recently purchased a chain of bike stores that sell bikes, obviously, and other things, and they're spread out everywhere, as you'll see. And she wants to know more about her business and has provided us with sales data from the past few years. So basically, Monica's hired us on as consultants to analyze her business, as she is a very busy woman, and we're going to provide her with a report, a Tableau storyboard, and other products. So the data that Monica has provided us with is available on my GitHub. So you can go to github.com/thomaslilo/Tableau data. The link is here, but the link will also be in the description. So I advise that you go download that right now. Also, if you have not downloaded Tableau Public, this is the time. I would do this down. Just pause the video, go download it, and install it. So if you don't know where to download Tableau Public from, again, the link right here, public.tableau.com. You enter your email address, you just click download the app. You should be directed to a new page, and the download should just start automatically. And if not, you can click try again. So now that we all have Tableau Public open and the data downloaded, we can get started. So first we're going to talk about connecting to data sources. So we need to start connecting to the data that Monica's provided to us in Tableau before we can actually do anything. So connect to data sources, we're going to click Microsoft Excel, and we're going to navigate to where we stored the data, and we're going to open the sales file. And it should appear in Tableau. So once you have the file open, it should appear here. You'll also get a data preview, and you'll be able to identify the data types and the column names. And you'll also be able to see whether the connection is live or an extract. So a live connection is from a database, and so it can be updated, and you can refresh it in Tableau. And an extract is a extract of information from a data source that can be uploaded to the Tableau Public server. So there are size limitations on extracts, and you'll have to save it separately somewhere. So when you import files, each file is going to be automatically assigned with the data type, and it's important to be aware of this because sometimes Tableau makes mistakes, and this can lead to issues later in your analysis. So there's a couple different types of data. They're pretty standard. There's text, there's numeric values, there's Boolean, geographic values, and there's date values. So it's important for you to go through your data in advance and make sure that everything's correct so that you're not going to have any issues later. So for example here, we can see year, and it's been placed as a number, which is not good because a year is not a number. We don't want to be able to multiply years together and get two different years. And same with customer ID. Customer ID has been labeled, should be text because it's identified as a number, but realistically we also don't want to be multiplying customer IDs together. We want to be able to identify the same customer across different products and purchases. So we'll need to change these both to strings. But these are just examples of the kinds of data issues that you might have later if you don't actually go through and look at the data types when you import files. So just, if you're following along with me, just take a couple seconds to look at your data, pause the video, and see if you can find anything that's an issue. So one of the cool things about Tableau is that you can actually connect and join multiple files together within Tableau just by importing. So we're going to do that, and we're going to join the demographic file that you downloaded earlier to our sales file based on customer ID. So to do this, you're going to want to go to Tableau. You can click Add Connections, select Microsoft Excel again, and you're going to open the demographics file. And so Tableau will read each file and try and find similar fields. And so they should join together automatically on customer, but you can also click on here, the join, and select the two fields that you want to join on, just in case they have different names. And then you can select the type of join also. So right now we have an inner join. So there's different kinds of joins in Tableau. They mean a couple different things. Inner joins, you're just taking the rows that match. So if there's a customer ID in demographics and sales, then you're going to take those rows. But if it's only in demographics, you're not going to take it. Or if it's only in sales, you're not going to take it. Left is just you're taking the stuff from the left side, everything, and then only the things that match on the right. Right is the same but inverse, and then full outer is you're taking literally everything. And so whatever fields don't match, they'll just be filled in with null values in the other fields. So now we're going to get started working with the data. To do that, you just got to click on this orange button right here, sheet 1. I'll open a new sheet. All right, and this is the Tableau worksheet. Welcome. This is where all the magic happens. All the beautiful stuff you can do in Tableau. This is the beginning. So I just want to identify a couple key worksheet areas: the data pane, workspace, toolbar, workspace tabs. So I'll just point them out here. There's the workspace, this is where you drag and drop things. There's the toolbar, a whole bunch of useful stuff out there, and that should be explored. And there's the data pane. So this is where all the fields that we did bring in are going to show up, the dimensions and measures. And I'll explain what those two things are different, or how those two things are different pretty soon. And there's workspace tabs at the bottom. So working with data in Tableau is incredibly easy. It's just dragging and dropping, as we'll see in a minute. You can drag and drop dimensions and measures into the columns and rows and directly into the sheet to start bringing things up. So just to quickly go over what dimensions are and measures are, dimensions are fields that cannot be aggregated, so things like a country, you can't add those together, and while measures are quantitative and they can be aggregated, so things like a sum of money or someone's height, because you can get an average height in a country, or you can get the sum for a customer's purchases in a year. So as I explained earlier, Tableau is all drag and drop. So as you can see, I'm dragging some dimensions in, drag age group. I want to look at age group versus product category. Super simple. And then I want to see one of my measures. I want to look at revenue. So I can immediately see with just 3 drags and drops what people are buying in what age groups. And I can immediately start to play around. So I can change the way it's represented. There's the show me button. I can change the visualization. I can immediately start to make my information more accessible. So it's important to understand that when you drag measures into Tableau, they're usually assumed to be sums right away. And so it'll add up all the rows related to the aggregating thing that you have. So like the country, it just add up everything within the country, but this might not actually be what you want. And this actually might lead to issues later in your analysis. So it's important to understand that you can alter the way measures are collected together. So you can get the counts of rows, you can get the sum, you can get averages, you can get means, you can get medians. There's a whole bunch of things. It's important to understand that this is not something that's just going to be automatically done. And you have to pay attention to this when you're going through. So as you can see, I have some information in my worksheet. And with the show me button, I can start to go and play around with things and find out how exactly I want to represent this information based on my objective. So different things will be better for different understandings of the information, and it all depends on what my story is. There's a couple additional little things that make Tableau really powerful. So the marks, you can change the way that things are represented. Measures are represented. You can add labels, you can change the size, you can change the color, you can sort things, you can add filters, which are really cool and they make Tableau very interactive. And then you can do things like add automatic captions that are automatically generated, add summaries, which summarize the measures. So it'll give you like an average of your visualization or whatever you're looking at. And then you can add titles, which are good for helping users understand what they're looking at immediately. So as you can see here, I have country and I have order quantity. And I can, by dragging things into filters, I can remove some of the countries or add some of the countries. In the visualization, I can show the filter. This is really powerful because then you can have the user actually select what they want to look at specifically. And so you don't need to be there for them to change things. Then you can, with the toolbar, filter things, you can arrange things, you can flip the visual. In marks, you can change the color of what you're showing. You can add labels. You can change what the labels look like you can make them bolded. And finally, with the little drop down here, you can add and remove the title. You can add a caption, which is auto-generated, super useful. You can add a summary, which gives you a summary of all the statistics within the visual. You can take all these things away. And all of these things you can change the title are like essential components of creating good visualizations. So now we're going to use the data that we got from Monica, and we're going to complete this little challenge. So what we're going to do is we're going to create 2 visualizations exploring the concept of profitability. So how profitable is the business? So we just need to make 2 of them. So for this challenge, I'm making 2 visuals. I also start with product category. I'll drag that in. You can see all the categories here, and then I'll bring profits in. That'll change the size based on their relative profitability. I can change it to a pie chart, but it doesn't really help me that much looking like this. So I'm going to see if I can add some labels. So you can see some labels, but then also if you hover over individual components, you can see how much profit comes from each category. I'm going to change this to a little bar chart, and I kind of want to enrich this, so I'm going to add age group. And right now it's kind of squished together at the bottom, so I'm going to stretch it out here a little bit so it's easier to look at. So now I have age group, I have different product categories. This looks good, so I'm going to start a new one. So go back, start a new sheet. I'm going to bring in product category again, and this time I'm going to look at region. So you have the different regions in. I'm going to stretch these out a little bit so they're easier to see. And then again, this is about profitability, so I'm going to bring in profit. So you can start to see immediately which areas are more profitable than others. So I'm going to find a good way to represent this. This looks good. So you can see based on the size how profitable things are. And it's also based on color. So I'm going to color this by region now so you can differentiate between regions. All of North America, and then if you add another color, so if I color it by product category as well, you'll get consistencies between the product category, but I think I'm going to actually just stick with coloring it by product category and not region, so it's consistent with the previous visual. Because I'll later be putting these two together. And then I'm going to name it. Color is a good thing that you can use to make things consistent across visualizations, so when people see different visualizations, they already kind of know what they're looking at. So every time they'll be seeing bikes as orange and they'll understand what's going on. So now that we've learned how to make some visualizations, we can move into the next part of Tableau, which is dashboards and storyboards. And this is arguably the most powerful part of Tableau. Just like the proverb goes, those who tell stories rule the world, and Tableau is an excellent tool for taking information that you already have and turning it into an effective story. So dashboards are the first component in story construction that we're going to cover. Dashboards essentially allow you to combine visualizations into one dashboard, and the best dashboards are typically built around one theme or message, so things are consistent and easily understandable. So this is an example of what a dashboard looks like. As you can see, there are a couple different visualizations and a filter in this dashboard. The size right now is set to the default desktop, but I can change the size, and dashboards just allow you to combine a couple different pieces of information that you want to show for a story. It also allows users through filters to interact with the data and answer their own questions that they come up with by looking at your product. So I'm going to go ahead and make a dashboard. So I click the new dashboard button at the bottom here, and as you can see I have my sheets at the side, which I can just pull in. Fantastic, super easy, just dragging and dropping. So right now it's a little cramped, so I'm going to adjust the sizing here a little bit. You can actually, if you know what screen size you're going to be working with, say a manager's tablet or something, you can build a visualization designed to fit that tablet or to fit that specific screen size, which is super useful. Just going to adjust this a little bit, yeah, and just make them look good. Very customizable. So now we have another challenge. I'll be doing this, and hopefully you can follow along with me. I'm going to be taking the visualizations that I made earlier, and I'm going to turn them into a themed dashboard. So we were consistent with the theme earlier. We had profit, and hopefully we can do something useful now for Monica. So we're going to start a new dashboard button. I have profits year over year. I have age group profits. I'm going to bring in age group profits. I'll bring in profits year over year, put it in there. Sometimes you have to experiment a little bit with how things look. So right now the fit isn't that good, but I can actually change the way that it fits within its little box by right-clicking and changing the fit. And so it will scale. The visualization will actually scale to fit the box that it's in, which is really useful. Make this a little smaller. Actually, I think it should be a little bit wider, so I'll make it a little bit wider. Because now you can see we have the three things that we learned, profits year to year, age group profits, and profits by region, all within one dashboard for Monica to see. So she'll immediately have access to all this information, and she'll understand what's going on within her business. Very useful. So now that we've covered dashboards, we're working with the most important feature within Tableau. I think it's storyboards. So storyboards are essentially combinations of dashboards and visualizations that you can string together into a little narrative people can interact with. You can build tools, you can build stories, you can build presentations. There's a lot of options with stories, as you'll see soon. So we're going to make a new story, clicking on the bottom right button, story button. As you can see, you have access to all of your dashboards and visualizations, and you can start to drag them in just like a dashboard. The only difference is you can string multiple of these together by adding new blank story points. So you can have a series of dashboards related to different themes. So my first one was orders, this one is profits. I can add a new story point, and I can add something very specific, like this one's just investigating bikes. As you can see, there's filters on some of mine. I can rearrange things, so I can look at profits, orders, and then bikes. So it's all dependent on how you want your user to experience your storyboard. You can remove the captions, you can just add dots, you can add numbers. So if it's important that there's a specific order people go through, you can signal that to your user by making the things arrows or numbers. But I'm just going to do the caption boxes because I want Monica to understand what she's looking at here. And I can also drag in text boxes. I can signal or I can write down things that I've learned to the user just to make it more accessible. I can also change the height and width depending on how the person will be viewing it and how I think it should be viewed. So I made it a little bit wider. I'm going to add my little info in there. As you can see, I have some filters in here so people can interact with things within my story. And now essentially Monica has a dashboard. She has a full storyboard to understand a bunch of different components about her business. So now we've learned about storyboards, I just want to take a break and quickly talk about analyzing data and the process that goes into analyzing data. Because while there is no such thing as a bad question, there's definitely better questions that you can be asking. And so to be asking better questions, you have to keep in mind the user's needs. So Monica's specific need says she wants to know more about her business in this example. So we want to explore things that relate to a business's health and the essential components of a business, such as profitability, distribution of customers, distribution and popularity of products, things like that. Because you can always ask an infinite amount of questions from data, but they might not necessarily be useful questions. So it's important to always keep in mind the end goal or the business need when you're analyzing information to make sure that your questions are useful and relevant and questions that Monica herself actually might ask you. So like the scientific process, the analytics process is needs-based, and it's based on your current understanding of something. So from that, and based on the business need, you want to explore the data, and you want to make a prediction about something, and you try to answer or prove your prediction correct. And you update your assumptions about the data, and you ask more questions with your new information. So it's cyclical. It's important to always be asking questions and always being trying to answer your questions. And that's just how you create good visualizations. So now that we know how important the business need is to performing effective analytics, we can review Monica's business need. So she's looking to actually sell part of her business because she wants to make another investment. But she wants to retain the most profitable part of her new business, but she doesn't know what that is. So that's where we come in. So from this need, we can come up with two questions right away. What part of her business is the most profitable and who are her best customers? So from this first question, I can break it down into two smaller questions that I can start to answer within Tableau. So within most profitable parts of our business, we can look at which products, so highest margins and volumes, and then which locations, so highest sales of these best products. So the data Monica gave us doesn't actually have margin, but we do have profit over revenue. And so we can actually calculate margin within Tableau using the calculate field tool or feature. So you want to go back to your data sources, and we're going to change the way we're viewing it. We're going to find profit, and we're going to right click on it and create calculated field. So within this, it's just a simple formula. profit divided by revenue. I'm going to change the label to margin. I'm going to click OK. And then just like that, we'll have a new margin field. So you can go in right away and see what it looks like. And it's a % right there. So now that we've created the margin field, we can answer the two questions. Which product category and subcategories have the highest margins? Which product categories have the highest volumes? So which make the most per unit and which sell the most? So I'm going to try and answer these two questions within Tableau. So I'm going to bring in the product category. I can see accessories, bikes, clothing. I'm going to bring in subcategory. And so we actually have data, if you see here, all the way down to the product level. But as you can see, there's so many products, it wouldn't be accessible. Like we could show Monica all this information, and it might be better. She might want to ask for it later. But if we're just going to look at subcategory for now, it's an easy way to give a overview of which categories are the best. So this time we're going to change it to average because it's sum. So you can see all the average margins. Then I'm going to color it. So I can see visually which ones are the lowest and which ones are the highest. And so with the visual, you can see that the accessories are actually pretty high margin, whereas the bikes, not as much. And then caps and jerseys, pretty low. I'm going to change the color too to green. See what it looks like. That looks good. So as you can see, change the title here. So it's green, and green is something that people associate with money, so they can immediately tell darker green is likely more profitable, just visually. That's something they can understand within seconds without even seeing the scale on the right. So now we're going to do the volume. So I'm going to bring in product category, product subcategory, and within the data set, we actually have order quantity. Super useful. So I can start to visualize this information. So we're kind of ignoring the fact that obviously people are going to buy more water bottles than they will buy bikes just because of the nature of the purchase. People usually have one bike, but they might have multiple water bottles. And so for the sake of this tutorial, we'll ignore some like contextualizing factors. So I'm just changing the colors here. These are okay, but it doesn't seem right. So I'm going to try a different color. Maybe sometimes you have to experiment a little bit. Maybe blue teal. That looks better. Drag this out a little bit. So as you can see, now they're both dark. Higher numbers are darker across both visualizations. And actually I'm going to try and change this to a %. So as you see, if I pull that out, it removes all the numbers. Because having this in and set as label is the number, but you still have the color in there. So I can actually change the label by clicking on Format on the label. And then within the default, there's a couple different options. There's currency and there's %. So I'm going to change it to %. I'm going to exit it. And now as you can see, we have %. So it's immediately understandable what they are. So now that we've answered the two previous questions, we can move on to a very important consideration, which is geography. We know what products matter, but we don't know where the best products are sold and in what quantities. So Tableau is really good at visualizing information geographically and making maps that are dynamic and pretty. So we're going to have a new challenge here. We're going to make a dynamic map that displays where the best products are sold the most. So to make this easier, I made this dashboard where I have product volume, product margins, and average profits all together. So as you can see, the average profits, the highest average is bikes, but we only actually sell 11,000 units, which works out to be 9,000 or 9 million, around 9 million. But if you look at the highest volume, tires and tubes, 500 units, multiply that by 80 and it comes out to be around 40 million. So it's far more. So we're going to consider that the best just for the sake of this tutorial. So now we're going to bring in filters, tires and tubes. We're going to bring in the map country, or bring in state, and Tableau immediately recognizes these as geographic and maps them for us right away, which is fantastic. So we added color, we can color things. So now we're going to bring in order quantity. So now we're just looking at the order quantity of tires and tubes across different countries. And actually we want it at the state level, so I'm going to bring back in state, just under country, and then it breaks it out under country. And now we have this beautiful map of the order quantity of tires and tubes in different countries that we have our stores. So I'm going to edit this color, I'm going to make it maybe orange. And there we have it. So now that we know what and where the best products are sold, who buys these products? Like, who are our customers? Who is Monica selling to? Who should she be marketing to? This is a very important consideration. So now we're going to do a demographic challenge using the demographic file information. So we're going to try and find out who the best customers are. The only requirement is that we use at least 2 demographic dimensions. So I'm going to start out, because we have a couple of demographic dimensions. As you can see, I've brought in both the demographics and sales files and I've joined them together. So I'm going to bring in maybe education first. And there's a couple different options we have. One is marital status. So married and single for each level of education, but I don't know how useful this is going to be. This might not be that useful at all. Oh, whoops, didn't mean to bring in ID there. So let's remove marital status for now. And instead, let's bring in order quantity. How much are each one of these groups ordering? So as you can see, it's colored right now. I also want to bring in, if I switch to the visual though, it immediately adds the labels. So I can see the order quantity for each level of education. It's pretty interesting. Add a title here. Number of orders. So someone immediately knows what they're looking at. Now I have my first one. I'm going to make one more. Probably for this one, maybe use education again, but I'm going to try and compare it to something different. So this time we're going to look at profits, education and profitability. I'm going to edit the colors so I can differentiate it from the other one. As you can see, bachelor's degrees earn way more, or make way more for Monica. I'm going to change the format here. I'm going to change it to currency so it's immediately understand what value we're looking at, or what kind of information we're looking at. You just want to make things, when creating visualizations, very intuitive for the user. We're going to change the title here so people understand what exactly they're looking at. I will change the name of the tab, and there you have it. So now we have our 2 things, and I'll actually probably make one more. So this time I'm going to look at homeowner flag, just because I'm curious here. And then I'm going to bring in profitability. And as you can see, people who own homes are far more profitable than people who don't. Which makes a lot of sense, because if you have a home, you probably have the ability to generate more income than somebody who's just renting or does not own a home. So the information is not that pretty right now, so I'm going to color it. And with 2 values, it's not super intuitive, but it's better than nothing. I'm going to make it green again because it's financial. So as you can see, clearly differentiated there. I'll add a title, as you always should. And I'll change the tab at the bottom just to make it easy for myself to find later. And there you go. So now that we've created all these things, it's up to you at home, pause the video and try and string these things together into a storyboard. So this is where it's up to you to be creative. You have to think about a couple things. What was Monica's initial reason for getting this analysis done? What do you specifically want to highlight based on your findings? What do you think is the most important? And generally, like, what format would be the most accessible for Monica, who doesn't know anything about this business, but she just wants to know what components are the best. So sometimes it's hard to find inspiration on our own. Thankfully, Tableau Public has a gallery available, because every time you save something in Tableau Public, you're saving it to a gallery, which is a open platform of a bunch of different visualizations. So you can go on there, you can search for different visualizations around the theme of the topic you're working on and try and find what other people have done. And often you get a lot of inspiration from that. You can try and imitate useful visualizations or effective things that you've seen done before. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so don't feel bad for taking somebody's idea and making it your own or adding your own little spin on it. So if you want to continue to learn about Tableau past this tutorial, here's a couple little questions to get you started. You can continue to use the data. So one is, are the target components of our business getting better or worse? So this is where you'd start to use the date information and do a time series. What are the cross-sell opportunities for different products and customers? So are there certain demographic segments that are purchasing the same things consistently and in large volumes? And then can you predict what a customer will buy based on their demographic information? So are there patterns within this? So these are all things you can do within Tableau, and I challenge you to do these on your own.